My mother had early onset dementia. I watched it take her words first, then her recall, then her sharpness, then eventually her. So when I sat in a meeting last August, the type of meeting I had run hundreds of times and I could not find my words, I knew what I thought it meant. I didn't say it out loud, not to my doctor, not to my pastor, not to anyone. Because some fears are too heavy to carry in front of other people, and some fears feel too shameful to name when people around you are carrying cancer, grief, and broken marriages. So I smiled, I nodded, I performed, and I went home and carried it alone. What I did not know, what nobody told me, was that what was happening to my brain had a name and a cause and a solution. This video is for the woman who is carrying that fear right now. I want to tell you who I was prior to the past 18 months or so. I was the woman who delivered, the woman who led, the woman whose capability and output were not in question ever. In corporate spaces where I knew my competence was always held to a different standard, I had spent years making sure there was no opening, no weakness to point to, no reason to question what I brought to the table. And then quietly something shifted. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual enough that I could explain it away. It was stress, fatigue, a difficult season, a new position. But then came the meetings where I searched for words I had used my entire career. The moments where my thinking, which had always been fast, always been clear, felt like it was moving through mud. The woman who had easily been one of the sharpest persons in the room was suddenly struggling to finish a sentence. And I knew what people would do with that. I had watched it happen to others. The moment someone in my type of position shows a crack, the room reorganizes around it. So I kept the crack hidden. I worked twice as hard to compensate. I smiled through every meeting. And inside, I was terrified because I had watched my mother lose her words first. And I thought, this is how it starts. I want to stay here for a moment because some of you know exactly what I'm describing. Not just the brain fog, the specific particular terror of watching a parent decline and then feeling your own mind do something unfamiliar and making the connection no one wants to make. I didn't bring it to God. I know that might surprise you. Prayer is how I process everything. Faith is the foundation I build on. But this I kept from him too, because the people around me were walking through real suffering. And I didn't think my brain fog qualified. I did not think, I think I'm losing my mind, but I'm still showing up, still performing, still holding it together. God, tell me what to do. I did not think that was a prayer worth praying. So I carried it. The only thing I held on to was a verse I had memorized years before. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. I was claiming a sound mind I was no longer sure I had, though. That verse wasn't comfort, it was warfare. I was fighting for my mind with the only weapon I had while performing in Zoom meetings and conference rooms, all while keeping the secret from everyone, including God, or so I thought. I left that company in November. I'm still recovering. And in the process of that recovery and getting some amazing functional medicine support, my estrogen was adjusted and my words came back. I need you to hear that. My words came back. The verbal recall that had been failing me, the executive function that had gone quiet, the sharpness I thought I had just lost it permanently. It came back because it was never dementia. It was estrogen. Here's what I know now that I did not know then. And I thought I was pretty smart. Estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. It's a brain hormone. It supports the neurotransmitters responsible for memory, verbal recall, focus, and executive function. When estrogen fluctuates in perimenopause or drops in menopause, the brain loses fuel it has always had. This is not a slow, gentle decline. For many women, it is sudden, disorienting. 1 month you're sharp, the next you're searching for words you've used your entire life. This is documented, it is measurable, and it has a name: estrogen related cognitive change. And it does not stop at menopause. I am 62 years old. I am postmenopausal, and I'm still affected by the absence of estrogen when my levels are not properly supported. This is not a perimenopausal problem you move through and leave behind. This is a lifetime conversation about hormonal health that most women are never invited into. If you are postmenopausal and you think this conversation no longer applies to you, it does. I am proof of that. I want to be honest about something. Despite my travel schedule, family, and community involvement, I kept all my regular checkups during this time. Not one of them connected my cognitive symptoms to my hormonal status. Not one. And over the years, I've seen 7 different specialists, if not more. They checked other things. They offered the word stress, the word anxiety, the word burnout. I needed to sleep more. They prescribed a lot of medicine. And I left every appointment still carrying the fear I walked in with. This is not an attack on healthcare providers, though. Most receive little to no dedicated training in menopause. Research on women's hormonal health has been chronically underfunded for decades. But the result is that millions of women, intelligent, capable, high-performing women like yourself, are sitting in meetings right now, terrified about their own minds. And nobody in a white coat is connecting the dots, so I am connecting them. That is why this channel exists. That is why Faithfully Strong Wellness exists, because the gap between what women are experiencing and what they are being told is not a small gap. I drove through it at full speed alone, and I am not willing to let you do the same. I said earlier that I didn't bring this to God, but I want to come back to that. Because I think there is something in Christian culture, something well-intentioned, something rooted in genuine faith that teaches us to minimize our suffering, to be strong, to serve others, to reserve our prayers for the truly broken. And somehow quietly we've absorbed the idea that hormonal health, brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, rage doesn't belong in that conversation. That is too ordinary, too physical, too small, and way too silent. I want to offer you a different frame. Your body is a temple. Scripture says that so plainly. Stewardship of that temple is not just what you eat or how you sleep. It's understanding what is happening inside of it, advocating for it, refusing to perform through its seasons by calling that performance faithfulness. The silence I kept was not humility, it was shame. And shame, I believe this with everything in me, is not a fruit of the Spirit. You were not made to suffer in secret. You were not made to perform wholeness while falling apart privately. You were made for community, for truth, for a God who is not too busy for your brain fog. I am still recovering. I want to be honest about that too. This is not a story with a neat ending. My story is still being written, but I am writing it differently now. I am not performing through it anymore. I'm not keeping it from God. I'm not deciding my suffering is too small to name. And I have found a verse that lives differently in me now than it did when I was fighting in silence. Therefore, we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. 2 Corinthians 4:16. I am 62 years old. I'm postmenopausal. I left the company last November, and I'm still recovering, and I'm still being renewed day by day. This is not a motivational phrase. This is a promise I am standing on with my whole body, including the hormones. If this reached you today, if you heard your own fear somewhere in my story, I want you to do one thing. Take the menopause metabolic type quiz. It takes about 4 minutes. It really identifies which of 4 hormonal patterns is most likely driving what you're experiencing right now. whether that's cognitive symptoms like I described, unexplained weight gain, sleep disruption, or inflammation that will not resolve. The link is in the bio, and I'll pin it up in the comments. And if someone in your life is carrying this quietly, the colleague who seems fine but looks exhausted, the friend from church who hasn't been herself, the woman you see in the mirror, send them this video, because the fear you're carrying alone has a name. It has a cause and it has a solution. You are not becoming your mother. You're not losing your mind. You are not being punished. You are in a season that nobody built a map for, though. And you are still being renewed day